So hey everyone, in this video we are going to learn certain memorization techniques so that we can improve the performance of our application. There are some components or some state which are being rendered unnecessarily, so which takes a lot of time in order to load your application. So for that we use certain techniques like memorization, which is nothing but caching of certain functions or components of your application, which we will be learning them one by one. Okay, so we have three techniques as far as React is concerned in order to cache certain things like components, functions or objects. So the first one which we are going to learn is the useMemo hook. Okay, that comes from React itself. Okay, so I have just created a sample example in order to demonstrate the useMemo hook. So I have just created a simple state to increment the number. Okay, so whatever the number we type in within our input, so that number will be added to our state, and also another state in order to create a simple re-render. Okay, so that we can experiment with our use memo hook. Okay, so that nothing much. So this is just a function to calculate the square of a number, whatever the number we input. Okay, so I'll just tell you what is the actual use of use memo hook. So let's say certain times we are calling a function which is takes a lot of time. Let's say this function. Okay, so here this function is very small right now, but we might have very other expensive functions. Okay, so let's create the situation here which takes a lot of time to execute this function. So I'm running a for loop which iterates 10,000 times. Okay, so I'm just going to initialize let and set this to 1 and going to increment it. Okay, so I less than I'm going for 10,000. Okay, so it doesn't crash my computer. So I'm going to increment I by 1, and within that I'm just going to log the value to the console. Okay, like this. Okay, so I forgot to type in I here. Okay, so this will go and log to the console 10,000 times for any like function call we make. Okay, so now let's have a look at our browser. What do we get? So you see that it logs the function 10,000 times. Okay, of course, just have a look at your computer configuration. So if it crashes your browser or something, like you can just reduce the number of it like to 5,000. Okay, so now if I just click on this, you see it took a little bit of time to calculate the square root because of this expensive iterative thing it went across, right? So again, if I do the same thing, you see it took some amount of time. So for the best approach to this is to memorize your particular function. Okay, so now I'm going to import the use memo hook like so. So I can just like grab this within the use memo hook and pass in some dependencies. Okay, so let's do that like this. Okay, so just like the use effect hook, this will also take in certain dependencies. Like so right now I have passed in number, which means that if the number changes, it will no longer take the information from the cache, but it will run the function again and then again store that into the cache unless this number changes again. Okay, so now let's have a look at what changes do we get within our application. So it's giving me an error here saying that it cannot access this function before it's initialized. So let's put this at the top like so. Okay, so and also we need to remove this the invoking of this function, because right now we are inside the use memo hook. You see, I have also created a button which causes a re-render of a component which just increments this particular counter over here. Okay, so just by this we can understand the use of this use memo hook. So for now I can just show you without using this use memo hook what is the actual thing that we get. Okay, so I'll just delete this and just go back to my application. So if I reload, actually I just need to call this square function right here. Okay, so since it's not inside a function like this, and you see right now if I just increment this, of course it since the number is changing, it since the component is re-rendering, it will go through this iterations again. So you see I just re-render without even touching this component. Okay, so if I click on this, you see that it re-renders this the whole component. Okay, which you even call this expensive function. So in order to handle that, we can just put back our use memo hook right over here. Okay, like this, and like whenever the number changes it will cause a re-render. But if something else within the component like re-renders, okay, so if I just click on this, you see that the number of renders is incrementing, but the expensive function is not being called. Okay, so how much ever times I clicked, which means that it is being memoized, or it is being cached